To do now, we are going to go back into the rough draft that we just completed and we are going to revise our work. Now, I know what you're saying. I know what you are thinking to yourself right now. You are thinking to yourself, and I'm saying this because I can read your mind through the computer right now. I am in your mind right now, and I know exactly what you're saying. You are saying that there is no point in revising because what you have written is perfect. Let me tell you something right now. That is a lie. If you ask any author, the only reason they ever publish what they publish is because there is such a thing as a deadline. If authors had it their way, they would continually revise and tinker because there is no such thing as perfection. There is only progress. So what we are going to do right now is we are going to get back in it and see what we can improve. And in order to help guide us on this, we are going to refer to the excerpts that we have right here, and we're going to look again at the rubric. And this will really help guide us and our thinking. Remember, we're looking for organization. We're looking for providing evidence and content knowledge, and we're looking for sentence structure and spelling and punctuation. So theoretically, I would be going back into my own writing and looking. I would reread it just for the organization. I would go back and I would reread it just for the evidence and content knowledge. I would go back and reread it just for the sentence structure, and I would go back and reread it for the spelling and the punctuation. Part of the writing process, what you need to learn is you need to learn how to be a writer, and you need how to learn how to be an editor. All right? So right now, I'm sort of taking off my writer's hat, I'm putting on my editor's cap, and I'm thinking about reading the work of someone else, even though it's my work. I am going to pretend that I'm in the publishing industry, and the author that I work with just submitted a manuscript, and now it's up to me to read his or her work and to give feedback on how to improve it. That's what I'm going to be doing to myself. So let's just go through this, and I'll just show you how I revise my work. So as I reread it to myself, I see this word right here. It doesn't make any sense. And I'm going to just change the text color to show you how I'm going to change everything from now on. So you'll see all of my changes. So scrum is not a word. I don't know why my mind thought that that was good. It's not. I'm not going to include that. So what do I want to say here? The air was chilly, cold. His blanket, as thin as a scrum of ice in late spring, was used only out of habit and didn't provide any warmth, only comfort. So I think to myself, what is the point of this sentence? I'm trying to set the stage and the setting and the life of the rubber tapper Paolo. So a word like this, I don't need. I just need to show that the morning of Brazil is chilly, and he is going to prepare himself for a day of hard work. So I can just get rid of that as thin as ice, as thin as a layer of ice. That works just as well, if not better. I continue reading. I see here that I repeat myself with operating and operational. So I'm going to get rid of this. He moved quickly through the house. Operational instinct built from decades of daily routine. Again, that works perfectly. Okay, I see that I have included some information from the NPR article that we had read. Haunting him like a ghost. I'm being very poetic about it, but haunting him like a ghost in one of the burned down shanties in the deepest part of the jungle. But again, he told himself no matter. So I just need to add a word. I want, he feels the deep ache of age. The deep ache of age. Okay. And like a ghost trapped. let's say ghost, trapped. These are my thoughts as I go. Ghost, trapped in one of the... Soon enough, the glow from the sun would turn into a bonfire. I don't want turn. I want a more active verb. I want the word ignite. It's a better word than turn. He would be longing for the chill. I don't want a passive voice. I want an active voice. Later, he would not be longing. Later, he would long for the... I've already used the noun chill. So I'm going to use the word bite. Whereas now he was cold, later he would long for the bite the morning provided after hours spent baking in the ovens of the jungle's oppressive heat. I'm feeling better about this. I should state that at this point I'm not necessarily revising, I'm doing editing. There is a difference between editing and revising, but this is my process, and going through it this way helps me see the larger picture as well. But as you can see, I'm changing as I go for the better. This is where I need to start to make some significant changes in this paragraph, and I knew this as I was writing, but I decided that I was going to keep on writing before because I was on a roll, and sometimes you just got to need to feed the creative fire. So this is where we first meet Paulo's crew, and I later get into a little bit more descriptions of them. I'm going to start to move some of that description up here in this introductory paragraph where we first meet them. So Paulo waved a silent hello, grabbed his battered backpack, tucked his pistol into the waist of his pants, and climbed into the open back of the truck occupied by the familiar faces of Michael and Juanita. I knew that when I first wrote that, I would be able to get into who they were later on. Now that I know who they are, I will introduce them here rather than give them a name when they're in the jungle. Okay, also, I need to identify the driver of the truck and the leader of this group, Carlos. So Paolo waved a silent hello. This is easily done. Some of these changes are just so easy to do. To its driver, Carlos. That's what I'm talking about. So let's see if this makes sense. Paulo waved a silent hello to its driver, Carlos, grabbed his battered backpack, tucked his pistol into the waist of his pants, and climbed into the open back of the truck occupied by two familiar faces of Michael and Juanita, both of whom gave him a friendly but equally silent nod of the head. Okay, what else do I need here? I give information. Look, so here, as you can see, after years spent together, they, the rubber tappers of Rondônia, Brazil. So again, I'm going back. I'm giving specific information that I'd learned about in the NPR article. Did not need to sully the morning with inessential greetings, no more than the right hand needs to acknowledge. Needed to acknowledge. Need to change that. No more than the right hand needed to acknowledge the existence of the left. The left hand. Both were part of the same body. Okay, here I need to change the word maintain. That doesn't necessarily make sense. Paulo know that each of them wish to maintain, remain fully in the present. Also, I see that there is a spelling error that I noticed the first time around. Loquacious. Loquacious means talkative. 7th graders have a tendency to be loquacious. That is me using that word appropriately in the sentence. Let's see how we spell loquacious. Spelling and grammar. Do your job. Spell check. Where are you at? Spelling and grammar check. No, I'm not looking for unholstered. Google Docs, I'm looking for loquacious. I put a C where there didn't need to be a C, so I accept that. Good, thank you. Okay. And though they might not say it, for they were not a loquacious crew, Paolo knew that each of them wished to remain fully present in the moment. The future was uncertain, and each knew that every day's ride, not every day's, it's not every day long when they're like this, it's every morning's ride, could be their last. But you know what? They're missing someone on their trip that they will see later on, and that is Esteban. So I need to make reference of Esteban here. So let me see, where could I add that? That's going to make the reveal of the body of Esteban pack that more of a greater punch. So I need to include some sort of information within this paragraph to set up the reveal that will come later on in the narrative. I'll just put it right here. And if it doesn't work, I can change it later. It struck him again. Strange. He counted only 3. He should have been used to it by now. And though no one spoke of it, though they rode as for the absence of the 5th, spoke with the sound of thunder, spoke as loud as the sound of thunder. The 5th, Esteban, had gone missing, and his presence was noticeable. That is a dumb thing to write. Obviously, it's noticeable, but that's going to be a placeholder for right now. I don't like that, but I needed to include that information about Esteban. And the reason I need that is because in the NPR text, and this is going back into the rubric, I need to provide evidence and content knowledge. What I am doing here is demonstrating content knowledge that within the world of rubber tappers, death is a possibility, and I want to show the impact of what that means to be a rubber tapper whose friend and brethren is struck down in this war between they and the loggers. So I need to really build that up. So yes, his presence was noticeable. It's more than noticeable. It's potent. It is a solid thing. Oh, you know what? His presence was as solid as the roots, as the ancient trees that made up that stretched for miles all around them, into which they would soon plunge to fulfill their livelihood. Spelled fulfill wrong. Okay, next paragraph. So this is not needed, but it's something that was just, it's a itch that I need to scratch, and that is just a little bit of character consistency here. I later established that Michael and Juanita are bickering. I don't want that to come within the same paragraph when we first learned of Esteban's death. So again, I'm moving up that information a little bit earlier. Hours later, so I'm going to just add a little bit more. The silence thawed and was replaced by the familiar bickering of Juanita and Michael, though Paulo would never admit it. He found their incessant arguing as comforting as the background hum of a fan on a hot jungle night. Incessant. Incessant. It's a good word. Okay, hours later. Okay, I can get rid of this. I realize Carlos, the driver of the truck, we know that. I identified that earlier now. Carlos, comma, the leader of the group. Okay, that isn't a positive. It is an information that can take the place of the subject right here, set off by 2 commas. Carlos, comma, leader of the group, comma, suddenly stopped in his tracks. One hand, Juanita and Michael. They're arguing, okay. Okay, I'm feeling good about that. I want to change a couple words. Okay. Surveilled the area quickly, but with the efficiency. He took one last look from the rear to be certain and strode, I like that word, strode past Michael. It's a better word. Strode past Michael and Juanita towards Carlos to prove his suspicions, with one hand as rough as concrete from a life of tapping and hacking through vines as strong as cable. Hacking. Steel cable. He didn't hold his machete. He gripped his machete. And the other, despite the fact he was certain there was no danger, he readied his pistol. He was not so foolish as to risk his life on a presumption. The spirits of those he had known his life peered at him. Okay, remember, a narrative focuses solely on one person, so I want to keep the pronouns accurate to that. So I want the spirits to be peering at him, even though the spirits, there aren't spirits, there aren't really ghosts. I'm being poetic. Even though the poetic spirits, the figurative spirits, are peering at the entire group, I really want the focus to be on Paulo. Okay. Carlos turned ever so slightly and I already said peer, the ghosts. So gazed at him from underneath an old battered brim with the hard and intelligent eyes of one who had seen much in life. It could mean only one thing. I need to make sure that I'm being as clear as possible. Okay, and the reason why that is because I am being graded on my ability to organize in order to craft a narrative with a complete beginning, middle, and end, to make sure that the ideas flow logically, chronologically, and that transition is being used. So all of this goes into sentences like it could mean only one thing. The loggers had come. I'm making sure that I'm being as clear as possible. Okay. When his party had made its way, party is singular. Party, had made its way through the section of forest, the trail upon which they tread. Trail. I don't know if that's right, but I'm going to stick with that for right now. Trail upon which they tread, continued narrow secret, a hidden tunnel, honored, gifted, upon them by the forest itself, what lay ahead, crime against Saint, it was an abomination. Okay, let's add to this a tree who had also let's do this. I don't like this part, so it's not sure if I like what I'm about to write either, but tree whose only remain was a jagged stump. Let's try that. This here, I need to see. I'm going through this and I have. Okay, look at this, guys. This is a perfect example of sentence structures. Here, I want to make sure that I'm consistently composing ideas through a variety of sentence structures. In this section of this paragraph, if I started 3 sentences back to back, in which I am beginning with the word and, I am not varying my sentence structures. Therefore, I'm going to reduce the redundancy of the usage of that word because I don't even need it there. Even if he hadn't, you see, so it's, and though the head, you know what, I don't even need it there. Though the head was nowhere to be seen, Paulo knew the identity. He knew the boots. Again, he knew. I have 2 news next to each other. Let's get rid of one of them. Paulo was certain of the identity. That's how my mind works, everybody. Was certain of the identity. He knew those boots and the backpack that lay beside the body. Even if he hadn't recognized these features, his heart knew what his eyes saw. This was Esteban. Okay, so this is why I wanted to make sure that we introduced Esteban earlier. If I was writing a longer narrative, Esteban as a character would be fleshed out deeper in order to provide more impact for this scene. But that's not the purpose of this. The purpose of this is to incorporate information for me to demonstrate my understanding of the life of a rubber tapper, not the life and death of Esteban. Juanita and Michael soon joined them. Paulo heard a muffled cry from Michael. I don't want the reader to be confused by thinking about who the he is, so I'll make sure that they know. Okay. Also, he and Esteban heard a cry from Michael. He and Esteban had been close, had grown up together as close as, okay, more redundancy. Let's get he and Esteban had grown up together. Paulo looked into the trees. Let's see what happens here. Okay. I'm coming to the end. As I start to head into the end, I know that I have looked for organization. I know that I just made some changes to sentence structures. I've been working on the spelling and the punctuation as I have gone. Have I provided all the content knowledge that I wanted to? I don't know. Let's go into it. Let's find out. Guardians of the Forest. I didn't include that. The message, I think I have, but that explicit terminology I did not. The trees are native to the Amazon region, one of the most dangerous places. You know what, guys? I would say that I have done that. So you know what I'm going to do? I am going to text, strike through. There we go. I'm going to strike through everything that I have done. Let me see. Tappers milk the trees for their sap by cutting. Yes, I have looked into my text. I have seen that I have done that. I'm going to strike that through. That's my evidence that I have done that. The rubber tappers use whistles that mimics. I say that. I do make reference to that in the final paragraph, I believe. Yes. He'd move on right here. He'd move on deeper into the jungle. He'd blend in among the animals with his whistle and his careful steps. Okay? I can strike that through. I know that I've done that. See, even by doing this, it's a little thing, but it's making me feel pretty good about myself that I have actually incorporated this much. Rubber, this is important. Rubber tapping used to be a major economic component to Brazil, but the seeds were stolen and the rubber tapping production moved to Asia. That's an important piece of the NPR article that I feel really informs, as I say here, even though it takes place in the present, their lives are completely informed by their past. So if I'm telling the story of Paulo and the other rubber tappers, I feel as though I need to include this information somewhere. So let's find a good place for this. He'd move on deeper into the jungle. I don't need to add another paragraph, I don't think. He'd blend in among the animals with his whistle and his careful steps. Let's see what I can do. As careful as, okay. Let me just write this, and I'll put it in red as I have been. He'd do as his father had done, and as his father's father had done before him. Stretching back before his people were robbed, here we go, of their trade, their rights. I like this. Their right to the profits of their labor. That's what I'm talking about. Before, I don't want to take exactly verbatim here, but before, I don't want to say the nefarious Englishmen, so I'll just say before the English had stolen their mother seeds. That was a term that I didn't include in the in this section, but I do remember reading that particular term. So that's another example of me incorporating evidence from the text. The mother seeds, and I don't want to say just necessarily goes to Asia, because that's, I know that. I guess I could write that, but I'm trying to incorporate the information in a different way. So what happens here when they leave the Brazil decimated in a way? It uproots the economy for them. So that's what I want to incorporate here. So before the English had stolen their mother seeds and left in their wake a world with an uncertain future of violence, death, and a forest who cried out for help, whose trees bled sap the color of blood. That ran down their trunks like tears down a grieving face. It's a bit much, but it gets the point across. Okay, so as you can see in the red, these are all of the changes that I have made, all right? And for the, just because I don't want to spend all night, look at this. Here is all of the red. I could keep on going, but I'm not. But as you can see, this is what revising does. Now let's go back. Let's look at this. So I've included this, and let's strike through. What else? The rubber tappers are armed. I have definitely incorporated that piece of information. The rubber tappers are armed. What else? The rubber tappers point out some of the more valuable tree species. Yes, I specifically mentioned that. The Brazilian walnuts, I incorporated that. Let me just strike this through. Guys, you don't have to strike this. You don't have to do this necessarily, but I am just, again, just to show you. The criminals, I did not include this. I did mention criminals, but I didn't get the specificity of scouting the area. Wood, yes. Cells, I did mention that. I believe I did. Give myself the benefit of the doubt that I did. Rubber tappers are murdered. Yep, you poor R.I.P. Esteban. There isn't enough police to protect the land. I did not include that. An illegal logging road. Yes, I do show that. And I use the basis of the NPR article that showed how wide it was as well. All right. I did not include this to show how poor the criminals were. So I know that for sure I'd include 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 specific pieces of evidence from the NPR article to really provide all of the evidence and the content that I would need to help support the story that I wrote. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how you revise, although I will say that I did a little bit of editing here, revise and edit your rough draft.